start a backup of this, always wise. And let's get to sorting, shall we? I wish I could blow this up a little bit more, but this is the maximum that it'll go. So, rest in peace to the legend, John Blanche. For some reason, I want to call him Tom Blanche or Todd Blanche, but no, it's John Blanche. Rest in peace. He lived a long and fulfilling life, so it's not a tragedy, it's just a sadity that it happened, you know? Everybody's got to die sometimes, but, you know, you can't really escape that natural sadness when somebody who's contributed so much. And that's the contradiction of it all, really, is that when you contribute so much, it tends to make people sadder. It's what makes a lot of nihilists say, well, it's just better off if everybody just acts to themselves, right? Because then less people will be sad. But in reality, the sadness indicates that there's something there. The tears indicate that your prayer was received. And so, it's better. It's better to have loved than to have lost, than to never have loved at all. That's what I say. Now, how do we sort this? Let's first and foremost go into... Well, I see some black and white here. Let's go... You know what? Let's go... Primarchs. For everything involving Primarchs, let's go... What in the heck? Where did that just go? Come on. There we go. Let's go... Oldhammer for everything involving Oldhammer. Let's go... Black and white. The black and white stuff. Let's go. And this is in the regular 40k one, so this is more serious collection. I have a 40k fan art one that actually has some that belongs in here and belongs in some of these folders, but it got stuck in there, likely because it's not canon. So let's actually take all of these and let's just start sorting them as it is. I wish I could blow these ones up, but it's going to take a million years. Let's see. Yeah, we'll just open up some of this, take a look at it. Hope everybody's doing okay. Yeah. Keep in mind, if you pop out the chat and you close all your other tabs, and this chat still is open, all your other tabs will disappear because it won't recognize that, you know, it's one thing that I don't like about Brave. It's great, but it's not very intuitive, because if it was too intuitive, it would be like spyware, right? So this is a really good one by, let's go ahead and look down here. 11T. There's a lot that I have by 11T. I think this really, really well captures the grossness of Nurgle, but without, like, going too disgusting, right? Gross but not disgusting is what you got to aim for Nurgle, and you also got to aim for, like, happiness, but not Slaneshi happiness, not ecstasy, but, like, the happiness of an English guy drunk at the pub. And this one goes in black and white. Let's see if I can scroll through them. There's a way to do that. Nice, nice, nice. Excellent. Yes, perfect. Everything's going to work out perfectly. All right, this is Oldhammer, John Blanche. Told you, I keep on trying to call him Todd. This is Oldhammer, John Blanche, OG, Grimdark Emperor. Look at his face. He almost looks like a monkey. He looks less human than Conan the Barbarian. You see how crazy he looks? But, like, you see how he kind of looks like a 70s, 80s hair metal guy? You know? That's one thing that made the universe the particular flavor that it had before, back in the late 80s, early 90s, when it was being put down as a concept. And I think this is beautiful when it comes to the amount of colors used, which are like 3. You know? I think it's great. You did a great job on this one. So let's go ahead and put this one in Old Hammer. I'm probably going to need, since the Emperor is not a Primarch, I'm probably going to need a new folder for Emps. Just go ahead and make one right here. Alrighty. Next. Yes, Warp Spider by John Blanche. You see, a lot of times they don't actually capture, the art doesn't actually capture what that big thing on the Warp Spider's back is supposed to be. Mind you, the lore of the Warp Spider is that the Warp Spider actually has, like in a shamanistic journey, gone through the warp. They've gone through hell in order to become something that can teleport through the warp at will. And this is kind of similar to the old shamanistic practices of having died and come back to life. And thus you can actually kind of see the spirit world. These are old shamanistic practices, and I think it's derived from that. But look at that detail. It's beautiful. It's beautiful in its minimalism, so it doesn't like crowd your eyes. It's very, very nice. It's very well done. You know, you got the back shading here, then you got the more detailed version of the same thing, and like he doesn't miss a beat when it comes to them looking similar, but as you can tell, they're not a clone. Like he didn't hyper obsess over making them look exactly the same. Artist out there, don't do that. Don't ruin your art by making it too perfect, right? That imperfection is what makes it perfect. That's gorgeous. Good job, John. Good job. Old Hammer. Now, what is this next one? There it is. There it goes. This is Blood Angels vs. Orcs by Adrian Smith. I tried to get a lot of these down, like the names for them, but sometimes the names were not provided for me at the source that I got them, so it is what it is. And I hope I don't upset, I genuinely hope I don't upset any of the artists that make this, but the crazy thing is, guys, the more effort somebody puts into their art, the less they really care about, oh, you didn't tag me, you gotta tag the artist, you gotta tag the artist. It's usually like art freaks, right, that think that people should be held aloft by very simple art, like GoFundMe style, move out of my abusive situation style, you know, mindset with their business. And that's not artistic. And real artists prefer their art to go wide and far, even if people lose the recognition of it. I've seen what happens when that actually does happen. When somebody's mind goes wide and far to the point where like Elon Musk is retweeting them, to the point where like huge artists on Instagram are retweeting them and getting like 100,000 plus. And they're just sitting over there on Facebook. Welcome to Purgatory is exactly who I'm talking about. And they're just sitting over there on Facebook like, well, at least, mama, I done did something, but I'm not sure if it's the right idea. But no, that is exactly how real art always has been. And then you get people who care, who pass around the particular type of it, but it's not always one-to-one perfect. Now, we might need to make a new one for, this is perfect. Let's do battlefields. There's a lot of battlefields, and they have a specific flavor to the art. And we're going to need a whole folder for battlefields. All right, next one. That was so good. All right. Excellent, excellent. Look at this. He's just scared. He's scared. He's scared. That shit good. Yes, Custodies. Everybody loves Custodies. In many, many ways, the Custodies, like, you can maybe even, like, kind of put into your mind that not all of the Thunder Warriors were purged, right? Some of them kind of turn like it's a prefiguration of the heresy, really, when you think about what happened to the Thunder Warriors, because all of a sudden, you know, they're getting the call for the bolters to go into their backs, and that's not fun. That's never a good thing. But one could assume that there were some that made it through the particular program, and they knew, right? Because they knew it's kind of like those Marines that go out and rape. Like, a lot of people don't want to accept that as a reality, but it is a reality, and it took me a while to accept that as a reality because I come from a military family. kind of 2 generations disposed. So, that's very useful for me to have come from a time where the military was at least predicated off of genuine justice and not just straight up like the raw, unshielded truth of it's about taking resources and power plays and redefining borders on a map. And then to have that generation where that is the 95% case, like post-Korea generation, to have both of those is a very useful thing for me. But I really like the detail in this. This is like charcoal, and you got diamond scar. You got diamond scar. Because, face off against one of these guys. Go ahead. Good luck. Test your luck. Test your metal. It's not going to work out very well for you. Buri Agnersen versus Norn Emissary. So that Agnersen, 2 S's because it's more pagan than Romanized. Well, actually, there's not really much of a difference between pagan and Roman, right? So let's go. Shoot, it's hard to determine because, like, in the Christian world, especially in the Protestant world, a lot of times they shaved off the double S's, double L's, double R's, all those double consonants that were used in the old European languages. Like, so you can say, you see a lot in Wales, like people can still be Christian, usually Baptist, people can still be Christian, and they'll have the double consonants because they have a revivalist culture. Now, let's open this up and take a look at it. There's not a lot of definition, but it plays really well with the lighting. It's like, here's the thing about what happened to John Blanche, I feel. This is my schizo theory about John Blanche. Please don't get upset, because I know he lived a big, fulfilling, happy, successful life. He was older. I feel like he could have lived another 10, 15 years if the situations were better. But the new 11th edition was horrible, right? Hold on, let's check and make sure that... Yeah, my microphone's coming in. Oh, I have that situation where I'm streaming and there's no sound. And what happens a lot of the time is my sound gets bumped back down to like 4. My volume gets bumped back down to 4. And I think that happens every time I log into the Twitter Spaces. So it is what it is. It's not a big deal. But anyways, back to the shading. The shading here, you see light, you see darkness. You kind of see it emerging from the darkness into the light. And what happened in the 11th edition trailer, which I hated, I thought that looked like ass, dog. Absolute ass. Is they took everything and they made it washed out. They made it what John Blanche and described his childhood as gray and flat, right? He grew up in a, like, recently post-war, like, Reconstruction era townhouse out in the countryside where everything was super orderly and people were still shell-shocked from the war. And people are still acting like, see the sort of food that they're cooking up. People are still acting like the planes are flying over. But what they did is they hired a bunch of, like, really, really, really shitty artists. I'm talking about those artists should never do art. Whatever the hell they think that they are, they're not artists until they, like, get back into the mill and grind more, because the 11th edition trailer was so disgusting. It was gray and it was flat. It was very flat. There was not a lot of shading at all. There was like one light source from a very poorly trained artist. Everything was super gray and washed out and way darker than it needed to be. Very colorless, very lightless, and that is an abomination. That is a humiliation to the work of the great John Blanche, as you will see. Let's see. It had great levels of sophistication to it. Now, let's see. Let's go... What do we call this? What should we call this? So you got Battlefield Amps, Black and White, Old Hammer, Primarchs. We should call this, I almost want to call it Tyranids, but I don't think that's the thing. Let's just call this Classic. Because this sort of style is like the adventure style, right? You have a hero versus a dragon, essentially. And this is a very classic modal for the particular type of art that is expressed in the Warhammer universe in its entirety, of which John Blanche was like so responsible for creating. This is an old Hammer artwork. This is just gorgeous. It's a little busy, but like in every aspect of it, you see great detail and definition and a lot of hard work when it comes to how they can do a lot with a little, right? There's a little space. So they take artistic shortcuts, like this right here that makes the definition of the chassis, where the space marine is. Just one little white line. That's all it took. Just one little white line, a little bit of red and black on the side to define shadow, but still red. And then bada bing, bada boom, you got it. You know? That's awesome. And then when you get a little bit closer, you can get a little bit more fine detail. You know what I'm saying? You see? Like, it's really cool. I truly believe that this is one of the greatest artists of all time. And I saw his work a lot without realizing who it was and the significance of the particular person to this universe and to art in general. Like, I didn't realize that this is the guy that made the Sistine Chapel meets 80s hair metal style original Warhammer art. And gosh, rest in peace to a legend, because look at this, man. Gosh, this is beautiful. It's gorgeous. Dare I say, it's almost perfect. Now, I would say that using traditional art, this is like the pinnacle of traditional art outside of the Sistine Chapel and stuff like that. And you have a lot of people who are more into like Renaissance paintings who will disagree with this somehow. But like, nah, bro. Like, your paintings were never really worth that much, regardless of what sort of mythology you wanted to make about them. It was always about what it could inspire in other people. And what this inspires is that you are stuck in. You're Zolgan stuck in a battlefield between the orcs and the, what are these guys? Yeah, these guys are the Blood Angels. Like, it's hard to tell some of these older ones, because the Blood Angels have a very specific aesthetic in the newer Warhammer, right? But then the old Warhammer, they were like some of the only guys. They were just the guys, right? And that's one of the reasons why they have so much love. So that is another Orcs versus Blood Angels by John Blanche. Now, I love Corax. Corax is my favorite Primarch. Corax I would consider is my Primarch. I'm not exactly a fan of how they made this look, because he looks kind of cornate, right? There's one that I can't find, where Corax is behind Lorgar, and he's stabbing him through the face with his claws. And, and Lorgar looks like really shocked that he could get that close and that far. I like that one a lot, and I can't find it. I wish I could find it, because it would be very useful as kind of like a reaction image when everybody's just like, Lorgar would just blow up Corax. You just blow him up. He's got magic. It's just like, no, dude, this guy is like he is gone so deep into his own despair that he emerged as like part of the despair. This is the Nevermore arc of Corax, because Nevermore is going to allow the warp to manipulate him. But I would say this actually belongs in the other folder. So I'm going to sort this out into the Warhammer 40K fan art, and that will go into the more serious folder that I'm going to make in there later at the end of this stream. In the middle and the end of this stream, we're going to get much, much more funny stuff. So if you're like, I'm not a fan of art, come back later. You know, tap out now, come back later. I'll have some more funny stuff in the universe, comics that were made with the universe. And that'll be that. I'll just go through things till then. Now, this I consider the very good personification of how he's supposed to look before he loses his mind, because he has to kill some of his sons that have their gene seed infected by the Alpha Legion's shenanigans. Those guys are always getting up to shenanigans, those guys. Yeah, I really like this. I think it's an interesting delineation between how the Raven Guard usually they work with like 3 or 4 claws. Usually 3. 4 is actually kind of rare, but I like the aesthetic on this a lot. And the Night Lords, who are like their Gemini, their evil twin, their evil twin, they use like 2 talons, right? Or I guess more precision in flaying and stuff like that. It's the representation of the injustice compared to the justice of the 19th. So I'll put that stuff that in Primarchs. And I am actually not as much of a fan of the older Eldar. I'm not as much of a I'm sorry. Like, they were very swaggy, but their aesthetic is strange and it's hard to pin it down. It's like a whole bunch of different things. I like the newer Eldar, even though a lot of times there's less color when they should be a very colorful. But this is older style and it's not very colorful. But regardless, the Eldar should be very colorful. This, after all, was the culture that led to the birth of Slaanesh. It should be everything that, like, the pinnacle of the ancient world, the very, very peak of the pre-Finno-Korean hyperwar world, if you will, should have been. And I think that you can do it either way. Old style, new style. You can make it just as eccentric as it needs to be. But personally, I prefer the newer style, where they look more like druids, as opposed to, well, like punk rock Romans, almost. That's a good way of putting it. Punk rock Greco-Roman, in a way. Like, you can kind of tell with the crest there, but like the entire aesthetic and how they hold themselves too is different, as opposed to the more flowing, newer aesthetic. So let's go ahead and make a folder for the Eldar. And let's stick them in there. Alrighty. This newer one is Death Company by Simon Eckert. I got a lot by Simon Eckert. He's a great artist. This is them fighting the Tyranids, as the Death Company is wont to do. And it's just excellent. It's wonderful. It's, once again, painted style doing a lot with a little, you know? And I'm a huge fan of that. I'm a huge fan of when you can do good shading without making it look super complex. And that's really, like, you gotta kind of study. You don't need to, but it helps. This is a very accessible way of getting that down. You gotta study Bob Ross. Bob Ross is the expert at doing a lot with a little in the painted style. And he's really good at helping people to craft shading in an excellent way while minimizing the time that they spend. Like, he would crank one of those out in 20 minutes. And it would be beautiful. It would be gorgeous. It'd sell for thousands of dollars because it was still coming off of that Renaissance era. Like, oh, the Mona Lisa's actually priceless. Nah, it's kind of trash. It's kind of trash, especially if you know the history of the Mona Lisa, that, like, that's his, like, anima, and that's it. It's literally just his anima that he was painting up, and that's it. I'm not a fan of that at all. I think the reason why they think that it's so good, and the reason why they think it's worth so much money when it's not, is because it kind of goes with that gender swap theme that the Baphomet venerators, you know, Baphomet being basically what Slaanesh was based off of, because they have one chest and one boob, right? So they have the female side and the male side. But in a lot of the Baphomet statues, they have 2 children by them, which is just like, yes, this is Epstein culture to a T, and nobody should venerate that. And they kind of like coasted that along with money. They bribed people into forgetting their better senses to allow the cogs to turn. And even though a lot of the people getting paid didn't understand what the mechanism would lead to, like mass human sacrifice, mass ritual, molestation, and pedophilia, the Sabbatean Frankists, as many intelligent and kind Jewish people will tell you, is the biggest threat to the Jewish people and the world in general. The Sabbatean Frankists of Poland, they said that pedophilia, that incest, and anarchy will break down all the barriers around the world. You can see it in the governments that rule quote-unquote democratic societies. will lead to the domination of this particular underclass of gene stealers. The gene stealers, folks. The gene stealers. We don't like the gene stealers. Gene stealers gotta go. I don't care where they go, but they can't stay here. Anyways, good job by Simon Eckert. Let's put this in the... do we put it in the Battlefield or the Classic? Do we put it in the Battlefield or the Classic? I think we go into the Classic, which half of which is probably going to be Tyranid stuff. This one's probably going to go into Classic, too, because it has that... that adventure hero aesthetic where you have, this scene that can only naturally be like 1 out of 50,000 minutes. But this scene particularly embodies the spirit of the entire campaign and whatever the heck these guys are up to. Now, I like this. I'm actually a big fan of this. A lot of people don't like to go super long on the helmets. This is kind of in the middle of old and new style. But I'm a fan of this. I think this is quite cool. Once again, kind of punk rock Romans. Punk rock Greco-Roman. Which, like, the whole universe doesn't have to be Greco-Roman. That is a poisoning of the brain that takes place in the public school system, where everything in the world is Greco-Roman with the teeniest, tiniest pinch of Egyptian, but oftentimes that Egyptian gets, like, completely... The main parts get completely ignored, and, like, the most senseless and stupid and inaccurate parts actually get put to the forefront. But regardless, this is pretty nice. I like how they utilize the space in the background. They got good lighting here. They got good shade here. Like as I said, the new 11th edition trailer is just like it's all washed out. It's all dark. It's all gray and flat and lifeless, and that's not good, I would say. Let's see. Do we have anybody in chat? Nope, nobody in chat. That's okay. That's okay. People can show up, people can watch later. It's all good. Happy to have people here. Now, this one is by one of my favorite artists that I've loved for many, many years. His name is Muhammad the Fearmaster. Yeah. Edgelord Saudi. Regardless, if you're talented, you have a more introspective mind. You're more likely to be saved from whatever horrible, terrible things that your culture is doing around you. I hate to say it, but Saudi Arabia... Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates, they're like lost. They're lost. They're completely lost. Qatar and Iraq can be saved. They have horrible political problems, but they can be saved. They have enough people there until they're depopulated, which is kind of the plan, the medium-term plan, if not the short-term plan. They can be saved. And then you got Oman and Yemen, which are just based, just utterly based. The best parts of the Arabian Peninsula pushed to the peripheries, effectively. Regardless, let's stop talking shit about the guy and get into his work. This is, like, one of the quintessential Emperor of Mankind sketches. One of the bests. Really, truly, one of the bests. And as you can tell, it's not ultra, mega, hyper complicated. You'll see people spending, like, a whole day on just one section of armor. You don't gotta do that. If you want to, you can. If you want to hone your skills by practicing in that way, that's perfectly fine. You can see, it's got a DeviantArt, it's got a Instagram, The Fearmaster, woo! And on still got a little Tweety bird from this very old picture. On X, you got TFM, The Fearmaster, Saad. Is this guy a member of the Saad family? That'd be interesting. But yes, very nice. This is how I picture the Emperor. This is always how I pictured the Emperor. It will never probably change from how I picture the Emperor, which, guess what? Conan the Barbarian in space. That's what the Emperor is. He's Conan the Barbarian in space. He's got major plot armor. He's got the biggest willpower of anybody. And he, when given the right environment, when given the right tools, when given enough time, it's all about, 50 this versus 1 this. Well, how much time does the 50 of the smaller have to prepare compared to the 1, right? Because eventually, like, chaos does kind of overcome this guy. Even though he's the strongest thing in the universe, at the time that it does, it assembles a coalition of his own creations against him. Which, in many ways, is an archetypal story, but it's a kind of a new archetypal story, and I like it. And I don't know enough about the universe to really understand why people don't like the Horus Heresy. I think they injected some new edgelord stuff in there that didn't really need to happen. I'm not sure if the whole burning churches thing was in the old, in the old universe. And like if you notice like who, what, where, and why, if you go through those who, what, where, why, and how, questions that you should always ask yourself about everything that happens, if you're have an inquisitive mind and you're looking into it, then you'll notice there's a particular reason for that. And it aligns with why ISIS burns churches, but not the secular state of Israel, you know? I don't care if I get in trouble for saying that, because it's a very, very important thing. And it aligns with what the Antichrist is depicted as in the revelatory, the apocalyptic mindset of what the apocalypse would look like if the Antichrist is given enough power, which is the dissolution of all statues. It's an extreme iconoclasty, but it's also like a unity. And in many ways, the Emperor of Mankind is the Old Testament Jewish Messiah. So in Revelation, why I don't like Revelation that much, it doesn't belong in it should be the last chapter of the Old Testament. That's what should Revelation be, because it's like John goes out into an island. He's isolated from the other apostles, and he makes this book, and I think a lot of it gets adulterated and changed. And I think it is the last gasp of Jewish apocalyptic thinking before New Testament thinking seeks to build heaven on earth as instructed by Christ. I do genuinely believe that. I believe that in my soul. I believe that in my core of my being. And in the fullness of the examination of the mind, I feel like there's really very little question about that. Very little question about that. That Revelation, it doesn't belong in the New Testament. It belongs at the very end of the Old Testament or at the very beginning of the New Testament. Anyways, this is an excellent scene. You have these possessed Chaos Space Marines. There's a difference between possessed and what is it called? There's a virus. There's a particular virus that turns them half machine. It's like a obliterator virus, the obliterator virus. This is possessed. And like the obliterators and the possessed, they have like similar rules when it comes to the games themselves, because they're probably just freaking out all the time, right? They probably have crazy shit happening to their bodies. Like, have you ever seen Ethan Klein just spazzing out? Which, like, go to the old videos. Go to the old videos that Ethan Klein did like 10 years ago and look at him, and he's nothing. He looks like a normal person. In fact, he looks like a nice person. And you look at him now, and he is just the most disgusting, spasmodic creature. It's because he's possessed. It's because that good person became possessed somewhere along the line, likely by his own culture. You know, I don't know if Gila has anything to do with it. She doesn't look right in the eyes, in the eye area. There's something off and dark about her. You don't know. You never really know what they did in the IDF, because the IDF is a conscripted force that forces Israeli people to give up their humanity and become possessed by the demons of the culture, which gets more and more numerous, more numinous as time goes on. But this is interesting because you can see this is in like one of those space cathedrals. Like the ships are basically giant cathedrals in space, and that's very, very cool. And you've got a lot of action here, which a lot of detail in the action too. In fact, almost a little bit too much detail, to the point where you can't really tell what's 100% happening all the time. But I think when it comes to how the custodians are described, and when it comes to, and this might be on Terra, this might be somewhere in Terra, but when it comes to how the custodians are described and how the possessed are described, this guy's basically a necromorph. I think it's great, because there's probably a lot of fast movement going on, like way too fast to track to the minds of normal people. So that is good battlefield right there. I'd call that a battlefield. Not a busy battlefield, but it's a battlefield nonetheless. Geez, this is going to take me a while at this rate. So let's go ahead and start cranking it out a little bit quicker, shall we? Okay, now, this is a Death Watch, doing what Death Watches do best, which is absolutely go balls to the wall on the Tyranids. Like, look at this guy. He's right on in there. Use the purchase to thrust yourself down his throat. Now, this is actually an allegory for the dragon, fighting the dragon, because you got to kind of go into the dragon to get to its heart, because it's all shielded off. And once you get to the heart, you can blow up the fire inside of the dragon, and maybe even take a piece back with you. So this is good classic. It's, as I said, most of the classic. I might as well rename the classic to Tyranids because it's all it's all Tyranids. You know what? We're gonna rename this to Tyranids. Wait a minute. No. We're gonna keep it. We're gonna keep it 100 because the Tyranids are just great allegories for the dragon, but this is gonna have other stuff in it. Now, Adrian Smith did the quintessential Necron Destroyer here. The quintessential Necron Destroyer. Like, I'm sure this was thought of in Old Hammer style, like probably the end of Old Hammer style, when it was doing all the crazy Terminator Skeletons with their green weapons and all that, but this is how one should picture one of the middle to high ranking members of the Necron army, these destroyers here. And I like how it kind of seeps out. Like, look at that. That's cool. That's cool. You never really know what's going on there because they use all this weird ancient archaeotech. It's you might not want to breathe that in. You might not want to breathe that dust in right there. You might want to use a gas mask like the Kriegers. The Kriegers are smart. Those are some smart peoples over there. Ooh. Did I accidentally not put Eldar where Eldar go? Should I make another folder for Necrons? I don't even have a lot of Necrons. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Now, is this going to make things more difficult? Yeah, it is. Oh, well. We'll do it. We'll make it work. Wait, what do you mean 2? No! Stop! No! Okay. All right. Yes, this is going to make things more difficult. Yes, I should have done it a different way. Oh, well. Hopefully, mostly going to just draw it up like this. Now, this is Tiberius the Red Wake. This guy gets way too much love in the universe. Oh, he's the biggest ever. It doesn't really make sense, you know, because everything is supposed to be relatively standardized. Like, they're supposed to grow. Like, what did he start off like already? He's already 8 foot tall. He's already 9 foot tall. He's like a Yao Ming sized guy who's also super buff and not and can, like, his body can make it through the Space Marine transformation surgeries. I don't know, man. I don't know how that can work. I guess people can make it work. I'm actually not a big fan of the Carcharodons. I think the Carcharodons, as parts of the... And apparently these are the part of the guys that got kind of... Some of them, I think, got sent off by Corax because they were part of the bad boys that Corax met when he made it back to Terra from Kievar. And they don't necessarily conform to his particular types of pacifism for the sake of pragmatism axioms, which is Corax's thing. He's not necessarily as nice as Vulcan and the Salamanders, but he is still quite nice, and he always tries to save civilians. These guys just don't give a shit. The Carcharodons just don't give a shit. So I'd say classic will be our portraits, you know? That way it won't be so singular. Won't be so singular. Another portrait. Krieger. Love our Kriegers. We love our Kriegers. Our Death World Enforcement. We love these guys. We love these guys. Sean Martin from Potentially Criminal said these guys are actually more similar to the French. I was just like, huh, maybe. Kind of Napoleonic French. Maybe. But I'd say, like, as we all know, is probably closer to, and how they're normally depicted if they're ever, like, given voices, they usually have German accents. They're depicted as World War I era Germans with indomitable willpower and just the willingness to just die for the love of the game. And that doesn't mean what happened to Germany throughout all those years was justified, but in many ways it was a result of the actions of their own leaders, which they loved and dedicated to, which is not a bad... Loyalty is not a bad trait. But one thing that they were outside of the Roman Empire, and they never really Christianized as easily as the rest of the Roman Empire. And so Bismarck viewed the Catholics as the enemy. You know, Gustavus Adolphus viewed the Catholics as an enemy. And the Lutherans, God bless them, they are a beautiful broken branch that was planted and transplanted that withered in time. It was withered by its environment, which happens. Just like the Orthodox were a beautiful branch that was transplanted and sprung back up into a new full tree that bears fruit and is now a stronger tree in Russia than the original Catholic tree is. Well, I guess you would say call that like the second or the third original tree, you know what I'm saying, popping up around the same time. Antiochian Coptic, etc., etc. The Catholics, people don't know this, but Orthodoxy is actually like 800, 900 years old. People don't know this, but Orthodoxy was created in like the 11th, 12th century, like only a couple of centuries after the Byzantine world, quote unquote, the Slavic world, converted. And a lot of that has to do with Jewish Byzantium merchants, post-Phoenicians, who would a lot of times become Donme, and the Donme would ingratiate themselves in various societies like the Weimar Republic and then like eat them out from the inside while pretending to be one of them. It's gene stealers. Gene stealers, folks. We hate gene stealers, folks. We don't like gene stealers in our societies. We got to get the gene stealers out of there. Anyways, blueberries. Everybody loves they blueberries. For goodness sake, everybody loves they blueberries. And you know what? Like, I'm not going to lie. Before they started going all crazy with the Primarisons and the fists and all this, everybody had big old fists and everybody's a Primaris and all this crap. Oh, they're even taller now. I think this is actually kind of in that era, but regardless, like the Ultramarines were very cool. This is Ultra Greece. You know, it's Mega Greece, it's Super Greece. Like Greece in its peak, like Alexander the Great Greece, which, by the way, Macedonians had a lighter skin than the rest of the Greeks, okay? The Macedonians are partially Celtic, all right? And if you think, no, they're German, you don't know your history. You don't know your history. If you don't think that the Celts went around and influenced all of Europe, especially Central and Southern Europe, before the Germans started raiding stuff in the 11th century, the 9th and 10th and 11th centuries, you don't know your history at all. You don't know your history, and you're being fed some slop. You're being fed some slop to try and make you, just like the Germans did, the Nazis did. This is a differential because the SS was pirated and taken over in many different portions by the very people that it set out to purge. Naturally, this is the way of Nietzsche. Nietzsche warned that in his own philosophy, if you were to go and you were to fight the dragon, you must be very careful that you do not become the dragon. Now, it says Daniel... I don't even know if that's like that. I'm pretty sure this is Adrian Smith. I'm sorry if I'm getting that attribution wrong. But yeah, that's what I believe that it is. No, the Eldar are where the Eldar go. And see, the folder doesn't fill in until a little bit. It's because it's AI, it's slower than our old classical code, which is just like, oh, it's in the folder? Okay. I don't have to send this back to the cloud to determine whether or not I should shut down the damn computer or what have you. And of course, it's never going to do it like for like pedophiles or criminals or for people who deserve it. In other words, it's only going to just slow down everybody else so that those very people end up having more space and time to do their crime because those are the people that got into our government and are pirating it. Regardless, this is Warp Corax versus Warp Lorgar. Lorgar as the Ascended Apostle, the golden something or another. Not looking very confident now. And I gotta say, I'm not really a fan. It's just like big notes. That's not terrible, but like the way that I like it better if like it's just a beak, right? There's one where Corax is like clutching a whole bunch of like briars, and look at the crows. And that's kind of my favorite way. It's just like literally just a bird. You don't have to kind of merge the human and the bird features as much. You can make it more dark. You don't even have to see it in an artistic sense. Because in my opinion, it looks a little goofy. This looks goofy. Right? Like genuinely goofy. Anyways, I love the detail on this one. This is cool because it's always described that he has like flowing runes that like pop up and flow down his like armor and cape. And like this is probably freaking out because he's freaking out and he's swirling and it's got all this other iconography. It's very cool. I like it a lot. I like the way that Ascended Lorgar, I think he's a Daemon Prince. I like the way that now this isn't a very good way of doing the Crozier. The Crozier it looks really wicked, and that's good. But like I think it should be thicker and more like these rings should be thicker, and they should be like Ophanim kind of style, like shifting around maybe like a central point that's like warp fire or runes going all over the place. I think it's supposed to have runes all over it. Like canonically, it's supposed to have runes all over it. But yeah, you gotta freaking love like the way that Corax is written in a lot of cases. It's just cool as hell, man. It's just cool as hell. Does that go in Primarchs? Yeah, that goes in Primarchs. We're still live, right? Yes. How long have we been live for? Whew, 45 minutes, and we've only gone through like 15 pictures. I might have to break this up into multiple streams because I do have stuff that I have to do, and I do have to fall asleep at a reasonable time. I've been trying to kind of switch my sleeping schedule so that I am sleeping during the daytime when it's just super hot, but I can't because it's too hot. You know, it's just too hot. Like, I do have ACs. I do have multiple fans going on at the same time. It just doesn't work. You know, the air outside gets too thin and dry, and there's nothing to condense, guys. Like, seriously, like, when you burn oxygen constantly at the quickest rate that you can, it's not necessarily about anything to do with carbon, but burning oxygen in combustion. It does have serious effects on the air and the breathability of it. You even see people like carrying around like little explosive oxygen canisters that they huff. It's a terrible idea, folks. Don't ever do this. Now, this is gorgeous. This is a Striking Scorpion by Mark Gibbons. Gorgeous, beautiful, doing a lot with a little, great shading, great backgrounds, but like, see, it doesn't have to be like everything, right? This could have probably been done about 2 or 3 days. Maybe even less. Maybe if somebody locked in enough, this could have been done in one night. But yeah. But does this go into Eldar or does this go into black and white? I think it's going to go in black and white. I think all the black and white portraits are going right into the black and white folder. And maybe if that gets populated enough, we can sort that out later. Warlock Lorith of Alteok. Now, I wish I could tell you who did this piece. This might be like an official artwork piece, which a lot of times the official artwork pieces aren't labeled as much as the fan art because, well, they got paid, right? But that doesn't, in my opinion, that doesn't make an excuse for not doing it. When I pick up a lot of these, a lot of times, especially if it's named but it doesn't have an artist, they just didn't give me the artist name. And I am not proficient enough with my tools to be like, press a button, it'll run a set of codes. You know, some people would call this AI, but it's not. Press a button, it'll run a set of codes. It'll pull up the website that reverse and back checks the pictures and finds out who this is by. Like you could feed the picture into a fully accessible newer AI model, and it would just do that in the background and then spit back out where the picture came from and who made it. But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the artist. I'm not going to have all of these labeled. Sometimes it's just straight up my fault. Sometimes I'm just straight up like not in the mood to do it. But a lot of times when it's not labeled correctly, it's because the person who gave it to me is not labeled correctly. Didn't label it correctly. Regardless, I'm still thankful that I get this big treasure trove of art, and I hope that doesn't get me like a copyright, because I think this is pretty fair use. You know, I'm not trying to make any money off of this anyways. I just do it for the love of the game. Now, this is going into Eldar for sure. For sure. Farseer Enclave Shasui. Now, the Farseers are, in many ways, the Maoist Chinese, like the communist Chinese, mixed with Japanese robotics, right? But there's something more. It's like they have ancient Chinese mixed up with communist Chinese ethos mixed up kind of like Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? Because they have the various castes, and like this is all in line with like deep Chinese mythology and the philosophy of their society. One would call it anthroposophy, Chinese anthroposophy. Anthroposophy originally came from the west, Tibet, right? So it's been lurking around China for a long time, but yeah, the whole fire caste, water caste, air caste. I like that a lot. I actually think that's an interesting way of taking that thing the West just butchered. You know, the elemental earth, wind, and fire sort of stuff that we didn't do jack diddly squat with. Like, other than a few alchemists who are petty compared to the Chinese alchemists and their games, although especially the Germans, and shout out to the Germans for this, the Germans are the kings of chemistry because they really maintained everything that they possibly could when it came to Roman alchemy. And the Romans took a lot from the Egyptians, where, you know, Alexandria was the heart of Gnostic studies and stuff like that. And all of this got pushed by the Mongols westward. And, like, the Mongols kind of separated the two. The Silk Road was this huge road. And you can actually study ancient Chinese script, and you can compare the same words to ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. And you'll notice that there is a similar pattern. In fact, it's not even ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, because the Egyptian hieroglyphs are way older. I'm sorry, China. Egypt is like 3 times as old as you are. All right, but like the degree to which that was doing anything, you know, back then is questionable. Regardless, they actually grew together over the decamillennia. I don't know if there's a new word for tens of thousands of years, but China and Egypt actually grew together over that long period of time. And in that period of time, you know, that difference in space actually isn't all that much. But yeah, let's see. Where should this go? Should we make a new one for Tau? Yeah, we should make a new one for Tau. Now, I do not like the Tau people on Twitter. There's something wrong with the English-speaking Tau people on Twitter. I don't know if it's like English-speaking Tau or just all Tau people. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know if it's like what happened to anime, you know, where you have this beautiful, fertile ground of art, but it turns into an art style, and then it gets taken as a mechanism to wage psychic war on young people's minds, which quite literally like turns them into pedophiles and also simultaneously collapses the birth rate. Which, like, when you think about it, that is actually not necessarily, that's contradictory, right? When you think about it. But, like, you got to go into the psychology of all that to understand how it happens, why it happens. And I think that when the United States took Japan and in the 1978-1979 period forced them to induce a tremendous amount of liquidity in their economy, that caused a massive collapse in the native culture of Japan, as the gears that created the culture in Japan were reorientated towards Western influence. And then the Epstein people, who are more than just Jeffrey Epstein, but like the Rothschilds and their surrounding groups coordinated through global banks, those people quite literally turned like all culture, Hollywood, you know, anime, all culture into pedophile slop. So yeah, it sucks when anime got turned into pedo slop, but anime did get turned into pedo slop, and I'm sorry if that upset some people. Like, it's true, and if you're okay with that, you're a bad person. You need to reform yourself. You need to, like, quite literally drop on your knees and come to Jesus, which is just like, you're probably not going to consider doing that. You're probably going to consider me to be in the wrong, you to be in the right. Somehow it's okay. You know, oh, my Oshi, she's actually 3,000 years old. No, she's not, bro. It's a picture. And what you're doing to your brain is, like, really bad, bro. So if you have any opportunity to get somebody somehow to break away from that, try it your best. Don't attack people just because they like anime, even if they like sussy anime. What worked in the church is to start to orientate people towards more meaningful things, like introducing them to the wonderful game Europa Universalis 4, trying to give them a methodology to help pick up girls and date girls, like which is not something they're going to get in anime at all because it's all power fantasy and bullshit power fantasy and that. It's power fantasy to the point where, like, somehow the main character will be able to control something that, like, if you were in the situation and everything was going exactly the way that it went, your mind couldn't take it. Your mind couldn't take it. Not your body couldn't take it. Like, the sultans had harems, but your mind couldn't take it because there's not enough order and structure in that weird fantasy. This is pretty cool. Iron Warriors get stuck in with the boys. Always fun. And somehow there's some Imperial Guardsmen here who's just having a bad day. They're just having a bad day. They're just having a bad day, chat. Look at this shit. I maintain to this day that the Iron Warriors, believe it or not, this is going to sound controversial to some people who are really, really into Warhammer art. The Iron Warriors actually have some of the highest potential for art because you can fuse so much of the machine into the man directly without having it come off looking like strange and alien and almost Mechanicum-esque. Like when you look at the Iron Hands, they look Mechanicum-esque. Like every Tech Marine is technically like an Iron Hand, right? But like it's strange how it's like you take a tank and you fuse it with a Space Marine and then you have an Iron Warrior post-heresy. That is where the potential lies. And of course, they're like the newer Perturabo are so bad. It's so bad compared to what it could have been. And it's so sad because that's like everything in the Warhammer world these days. It's turning into goy slop, which is it's heartbreaking for an amazing reason. Anyways, this goes into the battlefields. After we took a good 15 minutes on that. Ah, Emps. Good old Emps. We love the Emperor, don't we, folks? Let's expand this a little bit. There we go. Much better. Let's actually open this up even more. We're just going to go through tabs, right? So, there we go. Much better. Hope that's not shaving things off. I don't like people to see my 50,000 tabs, especially the ones that I just lost. Nah. Look at this and look at the Emperor, like, before the heresy in the trailer and tell me that shit isn't slop. This shit is awesome. This shit is awesome, bro. I don't think there's anything more awesome when it comes to the great man theory than this. This is the ultimate great man theory. This is Jesus come back with a flaming sword. This is Space Conan given enough prep time. This is, you know, the ultimate manifestation of the will of man. And come on, guys, like, how could you not love this? How could you not love this? How can you not, like, look at this and immediately be in, like, some level of awe? Going right in there with the other Emps pictures. And really, if people want to, like, take a better look at this where I'm not, like, scrolling back and forth, they can pause the video and on the playback, and they can just take a good hard look at this beautiful artwork. I'm not sure what's going on here. I think what happened here is this Eldar got downed, and this guy, I think he's a Farseer or just a regular seer, is making sure that his soul isn't eaten up by Mr. Slaanesh, Mrs. Slaanesh, whatever the Mixes Slaanesh, which is always an issue for the Eldar. Like, quite literally, because they live such decadent lives, it is very, and then the culture itself has built itself on a massive decadent platform. It's kind of a spire, you know, and there's only a certain position that they can occupy without being in constant peril. Now, this is actually 2013 Fantasy Flight Games and Games Workshop. I'm not sure what exactly this is for, but it's illustrated by J.B. Casagap. And it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Like, really, truly gorgeous. Like, look at the gems, how they're given really good lighting. Like, because the light is coming off, like, directly towards all of them. So they can all relatively look like they're full and gleaming, which gems are kind of hard to capture in art because the different style of gem means a different refraction of light that takes place inside of it that then comes back to our eyes as something else. Yeah, man. This is really, really, really well done. This is in the newer style that I like of the Eldar, where you take digital art, and then you can kind of maximize the swag that the Eldar is supposed to be depicted as. Supposed to. With that digital art. help. So this is going into Eldar folder. And this looks like another battlefield coming up. Wait for it to load. There it goes. I'm so happy that this is working out. This is working out perfectly. I'm so happy. This is old Hammer style. Like, really old Hammer style. Chaos. Right. Is that even Chaos? Yeah, man. Because it looks like Nazis. And this looks like Knights, right? That's old Hammer right there. That's old Hammer for you. Yeah, man. And this isn't perfect, but keep in mind, this was done with, brush strokes. This is not digitally assisted, where all the tools can make things nice and even for people, and they don't have to work super hard, and everything is very quick to erase if it needs to be erased. And this was done with a more this took more time. This was done with more effort, and I respect that. I respect that at face value. Kickity kick. He's kicking the shit out of this guy's non-supporting leg, but he has a shield, and he's going to block that bolter gun, and he has a sword, so when it comes to QQC, this guy he might get Mr. Nazi a run for his money. As apparently a Sergeant. I don't know why I always pronounce it Sergeant. It is what it is, chat. Now, does this go into Battlefields or Old Hammer? I think this goes into Old Hammer, yeah. Not everything is John Blanche. Unfortunately. I wish I had more of his art. I'm probably going to collect more of his art as time goes on. And in fact, I definitely need to break this up into multiple viewings if I'm going to go through the... Oh my goodness. Why does it keep doing this? Stop. Gotta remove all of these from Quick Access now because they just assign themselves to pinning and interpreter. No. Stop. Okay. Yeah, because it's gonna, for the, really fun, comics and fan art and fan fictions and OCs and stuff like that, that's gonna take a lot of time. This is a big folder. See, it's getting more condensed, which is good, but this is still gonna take a long time. Now, this is Corswain. Corswain by somebody that I don't know. Corswain by artist unknown, but digital assisted, beautiful. Gorgeous. I love it when they spend that extra time to get the lighting right with what's artistic instead of what's hyper accurate. Oh, it's a grimdark universe, and so everything's dark. Wrong! Things are beautiful in the Warhammer 40k universe. They're gorgeous because it has to contrast the amount of evil. This is the Tetragramma Namata Manapan. This is if you see this symbol, which is basically just this is basically like a Star of Remphan, but squished. They call it the Star of David, but David never had a symbol like that. If you see this symbol, be on your toes. In real life, I'm serious about that. If you see this symbol in real life, be on your toes. The way that and you see, this is always how this happens in the West. First it starts as Freemasons, and then it turns into Zionism down the road, because the Freemasons were the evolution of the Knights Templar, and the Knights of the Knights Templar were dedicated to the Temple of Solomon, which, apparently they don't realize that Solomon's temple is, way gone, and, the prophet Ezekiel, peace be upon him, he, designed the second temple, so that's technically... The second temple is the temple of Ezekiel, and the third temple is the temple of Jesus Christ, the temple of Christ. And that's something that has been distributed out to all of mankind. And there is no more just and noble sacrifice, the redemption of Cain, the redemption of Adam, than what Jesus did. And I'm sorry if that upsets you somehow. I actually don't give a shit. I'm actually not sorry if that upsets you, because that's the truth. And you can sit and you can spin for all eternity, for all I care. Anyways, this is Corswain, and as I was describing the Dark Angels, the first chapter, when the chapters were being conceptualized, they were being conceptualized by Freemasons. And the first chapter, the best chapter, it's funny that it's like Luther, and that it's like a Norman, Crusader who looks a lot like my dad. Lionel Johnson. Looks a lot like my dad when he was younger. But anyways, It's funny that it kind of has a Catholic Protestant split to it, because the Freemasons worked a lot better inside of Catholicism than they did in Protestantism, which just broke down really quickly. It's too fast, it's too easy, it's too sloppy. Not to throw shade on the Protestants, but this is like a bigger picture than just simple churches. But anyways, this was designed by Freemasons, and they love this symbol right here. They love this symbol right here. And a lot of the, like a lot of people are named like Asmodai and stuff like that. But Corswain is like Sir Gawain. This is Sir Gawain. This is like a repackaged, because what Belgium is a Celtic revivalist state put into the heart of the most Celtic part of the Netherlands. And it actually was created by England. And that was created at a time when England was controlled completely by Freemasons. And so, like, a lot of the pagan revivalism are projects set up, or at least the ones that survive, because Odinism seems to be a project set up by Zionists and the CIA, and it is not taken off, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you think it is, but all those guys are, like, obese and stupid. Sorry. Like, I'm sorry if that's what you think the Germans are supposed to be, but if you actually study the way that the Freemasons wrote the Space Wolves, which are pagan Germans, Odinists in a very real sense, like Norse Odinists, not American Odinists, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean outside of Thule. It's a lot. There's more vitality. The lack of vitality comes from the lack of the necessity for the cultures, right? The Vikings didn't exist until the North Wind blew in and created them, which is a fact, because they were, Norway and parts of Sweden were a reservation for the pagans in the 9th, 10th, and 11th centuries. And what that did is Christianity moved up and up and up and up and took over Denmark under King Harold. And King Harold was not necessarily a good Christian or a good guy, but what it did was it hardened, like a diamond created by pressure. It hardened the Vikings into, I know I'm going into this, just should be something I talk about on the Space Wolf picture. It hardened the Vikings into effectively diamonds of warriors. And they were the best warriors at the moment in the burgeoning Steel Age. And that's that, you know. They probably wouldn't have existed if Germani had stayed pagan. It would have been warriors very similar in bearing to the ancient Celts. And really, the blood tells you that there's not a big difference between the two. As the Germans are actually more of a modern manifestation of that whole Slavic, Germanic, and Celtic culture. And most importantly, the Baltics. The Baltics are the most important. And what you look at the gene maps is you notice that a lot of the more ancient blood came through a band from the Baltics. It's most concentrated in the Baltics. It came through a band through Stockholm, central Sweden, did not hit the southern parts of Sweden, did not hit Denmark that much, and then went over through Norway into Scotland and Ireland and North Wales, too. So stick this in classic. Sorry, that took like 15 minutes once again. This is the Death Guard of Krieg by Karl Kopp. Love this. Absolutely love it. That guy's not having a good day. Right here. He's not having a good day. But everybody else is. Everybody else is happy to be here. Where's your shovel, soldier? There it is. Excellent. Excellent. Swag. And what's crazy is, if you've noticed, the commissars in the Death Corps, they don't have to be such dicks. Because everybody is kind of in the same mindset, right? There's not a lot of cowardice among these men. And that's what makes them so grand, and we love them so much. And if you like the Death Corps, go check out the YouTube channel, Janikov? I believe it's Janikov. He's been recently upset with Warhammer's changing, and them striking down like small creators left and right, and the changing of the universe in a horrible way that ignores source material. Like, there's no excuse for that. I'm very upset with the recent trailer that everybody's fawning over because, like, I genuinely believe that led to the death of John Blanche by seeing the universe that he created turn dull and lifeless. This isn't dull and lifeless, man. This is exactly how things would look when a world has so much pollution put into it that, like, there's heavy metals in the atmosphere that are causing the conduction between the ground and the sky, and the, like, lightning everywhere, and that's lighting stuff up, you know, and there's fires, and that's lighting stuff up. Just because it's dark doesn't mean it has to be lifeless. And if it's lifeless, then what's the point in necessarily even animating that, right? It's too macabre in a way that doesn't really memento mori. Regardless, this is great. This is beautiful. Titan. Real cool. She's next to my back there. What is that guy doing on the treads? Get off of there, soldier. Get your feet off of there before they get caught. Let's see. Does this go into battlefields? Yeah, we can put this in a battlefield. Because it looks like a battlefield. I like the way that the portrait, you know, scrolls over what looks to be like there is some firing, there is some battle there going on. Now, oi, is this Zolgan good battle? Crump. Yeah, that's right. They can't say like multi-syllabic words very well, so they say crump. Oh, it's a proper crump. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. A lot of darkness because of, like, the smog, the straight-up smog of every single thing that they're operating. A lot of, like, immediate darkness, close darkness, but, like, constantly illuminated by the muzzle flashes of their DACA. Just beautiful. Gorgeous. Like, look at this, man. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. He just doesn't give a shit. Low cortisol. Low Yep. The Chevalier is not going to fare too well on this. And why the hell is there even a horse here? Regardless, that's a heckin' good war boss right there. He's got the big teeth. Looks like he's about to come into a peril with his buddies there. Yeah. Killicons. And, oh gosh, what's that called? Big Mech? No, that's what the mech boys are, the Gargaunts? I think this is called a Gargaunt. Yeah, I think this is a Gargaunt. And this is a Killicon. And these have, like, little gremlins fused into them. They're, like, fused. It needs a pain boy and a mech boy. And they, like, detach parts of their brain and they fuse them right into this oil drum. I'm not sure how these operate. I'm sure there's lore that you can look up if you're interested, but I think this is kind of like they land, their ships land, and they basically reassemble their ships as these giant titans. Yeah. I like how they land too. It's just basically like somehow they managed to assemble these balls of metal and fly through the galaxy with them. Just by the sheer will of they want to do it, which, like, they're the ultimate being of willpower in the universe, because their will can literally manifest and change reality. They paint their machines red. They literally go faster. It's not a joke in the orc culture and society. And they all take it seriously and nobody questions it. And in a way, like, it's pure placebo, and it actually does manage to kind of get into the causality of reality. And I, gotta respect that. Gotta respect that. Manifest it. That goes on the battlefields. And here's a classic Lehman Russ. Primarchs here. Now, Lehman Russ didn't actually create the tank. I don't think Lehman Russ can actually even count. The Lehman Russ tank was found archaeo. It was ancient SPC or something. What it's called? It's found archaeotech from the Dark Age of technology. Yeah. Just I don't really know a lot about Lehman. He's just what is it? I don't know a lot about Norse mythology either. I know there's Loki, and then there's Odin, and Thor. Yeah, he's kind of like Thor. Yeah, Thor is pretty cool, but Thor is more represented in Norse mythology as somebody who has a mastery over lightning very specifically. Odin equals big hammer. So Odin is really more the Warhammer. This you could basically take Loki, Odin, because he likes playing tricks and he likes getting in and having a good time. So he's kind of like Loki, Odin, and Thor all fused together. That's what Leman Russ represents in many ways. Let's put him in Primarch. And the next, Yagatai Khan. Of course they had to put the Mongols into the universe, because why the hell wouldn't they? It's a universe about war, and it's also a universe in many ways representing the Imperium as the Aryan super society, the Indo-European super society, of which I would consider, in many ways, joined together to create the Proto-Indo-European society was the Mongols. Both the Indians and the Mongols. Indian technology, a little bit of West Indian blood, otherwise known as West Aryan blood, which is what it's actually known as in the real world, even though the modern India is much different, and like Iran, actually always known as the land of the Aryans, Iran actually has a deeper connection to the Indo-European substrate and culture. Indo-Iranian is what it's called. Than any Pakistani, any Indian, any Afghan, or any of that. Regardless, pretty cool. You know, good depiction of Slaanesh. Of course, you gotta have that stupid, ugly fetish gear on him, because of course, like that's, you know, you gotta depict that as Slaaneshi, because it is Slaaneshi. Crab claws. They love their crab claws. Slaanesh loves crab. Big crab fan. I don't know what that is. I actually didn't notice that the first time. Well, oh, I could just press this button. Excellent. That'll make it easier next time. But yes. Yes. It's kind of like a falchion, I think that's called. It's a falchion. But it's a little longer, so it's like a katana falchion. Yeah. Look at this man. Look at this man. He is about to... he is about to destroy this degenerate. Because it's too excessive. It's rude. It's crass. It has to go. It has to go. He's a con, after all. Yep. Nothing more to say. Just brilliant, beautiful, genius, great artwork. Wonderful artwork. Pum. Okay, who did this? Wrigley Bear 40K. Okay, all right. Interesting style. Not a lot of colors. That's fine. It could be a little bit more vibrant. Apparently a very, very dark and sort of washed out world. Wait. This says it's by Alec Thomas. Gregor Eisenhorn by Alec Thomas. That's Eisenhorn, I believe. Yeah, not much to say about this. I'm a little confused about exactly what is going on here. Who this is by. Because that's what it was labeled. It was labeled Gregor Eisenhorn by Alec Thomas. Maybe it is. Maybe that's just his handle. But yeah. Pretty good. Pretty basic. Pretty decent. Nice background here. Nice even structures. And good human-looking humans. Not much more to say about it. I'll put that in classic. And this is the prophet of Gork and Mork. Gazkul Urak Thraka. Yes. This guy is great. What happened with this guy is he got a major brain injury. And they fused something to his head to fix it. But like what happened is he ended up getting like prophetic visions. And like truly prophetic. You can tell there's like a lot of metal right here. Truly prophetic visions. So he quite literally became the prophet of the orc god, Gorkenmork, which is like, it once was one, and then it like, you know, fought itself and became two. Because of course, that's the nature of their entire ethos is to fight. To get stuck in a good, what do they call it? Do they call it a wog? It's not a crump. They got all sorts of fun, eccentric words. Probably the funnest part, especially when it comes to the people, is the orc faction. It's the funnest part of the universe. Genuinely, if you're not getting super deep into the lore and you're like, oh my god, these guys are monsters, and look, they're deep frying people. If you don't get super deep into that, you can actually find a lot of fun in the orcs, and the way that orcs can be turned fun, and the way that people can roleplay as orcs, and the voices that they do, which is like weird, London degenerate style voices. It's kind of hard to even describe what they're supposed to be, because most of Warhammer comes from England, and it's very Anglo-centric, and these guys are apparently like, brutes that you'd find in the harbors, essentially. But yeah, good shit. You ever see this Warhammer community sticker, this is probably official art. Somebody got paid. Thankfully, somebody got paid for it. We have an orc section. I should just put this in classic. Save myself the time. I didn't even know why I have a Tau folder. I have like 3 Tau pictures. Anyways, this is, rest in peace, Joan of Arc. You would have loved Warhammer 40k. Saint Celestine and Gemini Superior by G.J. Doran. So first, let's look at Saint Celestine. Living saint. It's not really something you see in Christian theology, a living saint. That would be called a prophet in Christian theology. But yeah, I'm okay with this. I like it. It's very respectful. I like most of the sisters. They're very relatively respectful. Sometimes people depict them in positions that the universe's lore doesn't necessarily align to, and in the oldest lore, they were really, really like dominatrix style, punk rock, metal, spandex and high heels sort of aesthetic. But I like the way that the Sisters of Battle have been turned into basically like French Crusader nuns. I like that a lot. I'm sorry if you don't like that. I like that a lot. I think it's great. It's got a lot of potential. It's got a lot of beauty, genuine beauty. Like some of the most beautiful things. One of the most beautiful thing a warrior could be is like a woman from France, right? I do not like the way that people deliberately lewd the newer Sisters of Battle. That's unnecessary, guys. You shouldn't do that. Every once in a blue moon, it's not a big deal, but yeah. Do we put that in classic? Do we put that in classic? Yeah, this is going to go in with a lot of our more artistically designed scenes. This is some Eldar somewhere by Alexander Elikev. And yeah, it's very simple. Background's doing a lot with a little. Foreground's doing kind of a little with a lot. There's a lot of detail here, but it's not really all that necessary. It's more of like an autistic representation of how the ships are supposed to be, I suppose. Like, these are legitimately, like, probably size-scaled and orientated Imperium ships, and it's depicting what's going on with them, probably in another world. But yeah, that's it. Pretty cool artwork, especially on the character, although I don't know why this looks the way that it does. Maybe a little too sloppy for my tastes on the Eldar, which are beings that are supposed to be highly aesthetic, like the highest aesthetics in the universe are supposed to be embodied by the Eldar. They were so aesthetic they gave birth to Slaanesh, for God's sake. So, yeah. And I don't know what this is all about. This is an interesting walkway, but this looks like it more belongs on a Drukhari world, to be perfectly honest with you. This more looks Drukhari than Eldar. Like an Eldar craft world, but it could be. It could just be, Drukhari aren't very creative. They just made everything darker and pointier. It could be. But yeah, I think a lot of the dark mechanicum in the Drukhari actually don't have enough of their potential fleshed out. So we're going to put that in Eldar, where it belongs. And here comes Morty. Another Warhammer Warhammer community post classic. Now, a lot of the times people make the Death Guard disgusting, and people need to delineate gross and disgusting. Like, yes, it should tickle your disgust sensitivity, but if it's like pressing the button too hard, as in too many tentacles, too many guts hanging out and stuff like that, without the proper usage of that, like it should be something that has utility to it, because it's the constant death and rebirth combined with like a sort of like bubbly happiness. You see, this isn't necessarily in line with what I picture the Nurgle's faction to be, which is very musical, very upbeat, very happy. It's supposed to be like a swarm of, like, everybody is like an insect happy to get a meal, essentially. And it's not supposed to be as menacing. It's not supposed to be as menacing as like Tzeentch and Khorne. It's actually supposed to be closer to Slaanesh, in my opinion. Because the Tzeentch guys, the blue guys, they always have like aura. They're always like in positions that make them look cooler, because that's kind of part of how you're supposed to perceive them. Is beings of immense power through the mind, and the mind dictates, posture and things like that. These should be like a slunched posture, but it should also be like happiness and singing and gladness and praise to Nurgle. That's what it's supposed to be. That's how it's really the best, when it is acting that way. Ooh. I always love it when they have one of these claws that like fuses over. The power claws that fuses over with flesh. I always love that art style. But yeah, here's Morty. Not bad. Pretty decent. They could make it a little goopier, to be perfectly honest. I think this is this is great, but this is kind of a underspoken depiction of how he could be as Nurgle's chosen warrior. Well, actually, no, isn't that Typhus? I don't know, man. Like, Mortarion ends up getting beat up, like, through the entire story. He's just a punching bag. He's just the Nurgle's most retarded warrior. Truly, like, the most unfortunate. Truly the most unfortunate guy in the entire universe. More unfortunate than Angron, who at least has a level of self-actualization. Like, and when he becomes a demon prince, just Diablo, he just turns into a gigantic red demon, then he's not really suffering as much anymore. But this guy still suffers. This guy still gets humiliated and beaten up, and then has to be tortured in the timeless warp for failure. Like, it really sucks to be Mortarion. It really, truly does. Does this go in Primarchs or Battlefield? I'd say this goes Battlefield. If it was multiple Primarchs, I'd put it in a different position. The good old Iron Hands. Good old Iron Hands. We love them. We love our Iron Hands, even though they're absolute freaks. Absolute freaks. But still, like, the aesthetics on the Iron Hands is oftentimes very excellent, and it is ultimately most fleshed out by perspective. Like, they can have all sorts of stuff coming up out of their back. They could have all sorts of stuff wired into them. And in reality, they're literally supposed to be like 60, 70, 80% machine, with like little bits of person left. That's what it's supposed to be. And yet they're still loyalist. So they're supposed to have the darkest and the most inhuman of all the human aesthetics. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Pretty cool. Very nice axe. Not really looking like it's going to be the most effective axe in the world, right? Because everything's very tough, and it's so tough that they have to use similar sort of, I guess that's ceramite. I'm not exactly sure. But like Prometheum-powered chainswords with whirring blades going extremely fast so that they can kind of like peel through with cuts, little cuts. This is going to hit, and it's going to snag on one of these little triangles here, and like it's basically just going to throw whatever it's hitting. This is not going to be very effective. Now, there's probably something going on here, because this definitely has a machine spirit. we don't necessarily what's going on in this in dire need of maintenance. That's not very Iron Hands-ish. They should be like way up on like modifying it if it gets at all damaged. But yeah, I'm not necessarily a big fan of this weapon, but there's definitely something going on here that makes it more dangerous than it looks at the first glance. That goes into Classic. Most of our singular portraits go into Classic. Yes. Yes. As I said, Sisters of Battle, beautiful, gorgeous. Gorgeous. Saint Celestine again, I believe. If it's another one, forgive me for my lack of in-depth knowledge. And yeah, they're basically just French nuns given guns. French nuns with guns. I've been saying it for a while. The nuns should have guns. I've been saying this in real life. I really should. Ooh, there's a guy back there. I wonder who that is. He's got like a staff. And there's a dove. Very nice. This is Muhammad. This is TFM Muhammad. I like this guy's style a lot. It's very good. It's very grimdark, but with the right amount of lighting. And as I said recently on Twitter, they really should have consulted this guy for help with the trailer. Like, if they're really gonna make it like super, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna come out and say it. If they're really gonna make it super Jewish, to where like the Goyim can't enjoy anything, please get some Saudis and have them at least help you with like minor aesthetics and entertainment, please. I mean, I'm not really requesting anything from those people. They should make everything as terrible as possible for everybody else. So then when people figure out like who, what, when, where, and why, that we can solve this problem that's burgeoning in our world. But yeah, it is what it is. It goes into Classic. Poses, you know, stuff like that. This is headshots, stuff like that. That's all gonna go into Classic. This is Sauro, the, is this a navigator? I believe this is is this a navigator? Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a navigator. Although, he doesn't look as crazy as a regular navigator. I'm not sure what this is supposed to be. Maybe a sanctioned psyker? Not sure. I love the lighting on this. You know, you can kind of feel the golden aspect of this chain of medallions here, because it's like reflecting at an incredible rate from this internal light here. Ooh, what's this? I missed this the first time. Sanctificum Veni Fiat lux lua ine tenebras galaxarium sigat in terra sancte nobis borie panem nostrum bellicum dimite nos nobis dubitation nostras nos quintatimus something is nostris. Yeah, it's just butchered Latin. Very cool, very cool. Yeah. This, I would consider that, I'm putting this in black and white, because this is like charcoal-ish black and white. I think this is charcoal. Maybe this is digital art, but it's hard to tell. This is supposed to be during the First Crusades, before the heresy, and they're fighting some crazy shit somewhere. These advanced alien species with their advanced alien semi-Castellan robots. Very cool, very nice, excellent style. You know, more pauldrony than the Pauldron Boys. That's gotta piss them off. But you got a Blood Angel here, and you got the new iconography Blood Angel here. So I don't know. This might be slightly digitally assisted, or this might be like straight up charcoal. Regardless, it's beautiful. Let's take a little look-see. Wonderful. That's awesome. That really is awesome. Yep. And here's the head. Here's where the face actually is. This is all just like a... Or... These almost look like they were built by the Imperium. But you can obviously tell they're kind of facing off against it, right? Anyways, that's going in black and white. This next one is by Fred Rambound. Here you have Ahriman, the Exile. These are Slaaneshi warriors. These are, or demonettes, I believe they're called. These are rubric marines that are just filled with dust. Ain't nothing but dust in there. Ain't nothing but dust in there. Don't even worry about it. This guy might be a real guy. And I really do like it when they manage to make the rubric marines look like the straight-up golems, the automatons that they are, where they're really not showing any emotion, any fear, any intimidation, any flourish. They're just kind of marching along thoughtlessly. I really like that. But Ahriman is supposed to always be looking aura, always be looking swag, always be looking tough. Because Ahriman is tough. Ahriman is like the main... Actually, in many ways, you can consider Ahriman the main character of like the 41st, 42nd millennia. You really can. Like some say it's Solar Lord Macarius or something like that. A character I really don't know a lot about. But really, if you look into the lore and what's happening, because Tzeentch is the strongest Chaos God, but Tzeentch is scattered. Like Horus is scattered, because Horus is a translation of Osiris, who is scattered, which is a very rare thing that happens in mythology, but it does happen in Egyptian mythology. He is looking to recover the pieces of Tzeentch, and that would make him the most powerful demon prince, since he... Well, is that a demon prince? Champion? I think you can only be a prince if you are a... Primarch, because you were like a son of like another chaos god, the emperor. And if you are a space marine, a son of a son, grandson, you can become a champion. Like, and you can become more beloved, like Typhus, than Mortarion, the demon prince. Karn, most beloved by Khorne, as opposed to Angron, who gets his ass kicked all the time. Like, it's funny. It's funny how that works out. So the demon champions, they had less. There's more choice. There's more striving in that. And that being said, the demon princes are just primarchs that got stuck in. They got sucked up by the chaos gods, and they're not actually really built for that shit. Whereas, like, these guys are selected out of tens, if not hundreds of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions when you look at all the legions together and all the timeline. They're selected from a large group of people, which I do believe the Space Marines are people. You know, debate me in the comments if you want. And they are weeded out from that process. And so there's a bigger selection process for the champions. Okay, so, Battlefield. Definitely a Battlefield. Fred Rambound. Very nice, Fred. This is Little Horus Oxymond. Little Horus Oxymond! This guy's great. This guy's great. This guy doesn't get enough love because the Horus Heresy, you know, it was kind of ill-received. It was a little bit too wordy at the end of the day. Like, you could probably take out, like, 30 to 50% of the writing in the Horus Heresy that was used to make more books, and people would be more happy. But regardless, this is Horus Oxymond in his regalia, and he's looking rather tough. He's looking rather keen to fight some baddies and champion the Emperor. And that's that, you know? Or is this him being evil? I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know. It's hard for me to tell sometimes when it comes to this particular chapter of the Lunar Wolves, not to be confused with the Space Wolves. Horus's chapter. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes because the way that they were written kind of prefigured them in the knowledge that they were already fall. So when the Horus Heresy was being written, they didn't really pussyfoot around the fact that these guys were going to be the bad guys. Okay, so, like all the portraits, going into classic. Ooh, buddy. Okay. The War in Heaven by Alex Christie. Now, people say, oh, we need to see more of the War in Heaven. We need to see more of the War in Heaven. No. Let it be a mystery. This is an origin myth. Let it be an origin myth. If they want to flesh it out, they got to flesh it out before, like, after all of this garbage is churned through. Otherwise, it's going to ruin a deep foundational rock for the universe, which is just like, yeah, this is where the orcs came from. They used to be way more advanced. They were designed by the old ones, which are like chthonic, Lovecraftian, ancient deities in this universe, to fight the Eldar when the Eldar were just the people in the universe who maybe prefigure humanity as kind of maybe a degraded form of the Eldar themselves. And what I like to picture it as is the orcs are very obviously like Tolkien orcs. Very obviously Tolkien orcs, so we can remove them from the situation. But the Eldar are elves, and elves are deeper than just Tolkien. Elves are like Celtic mythology. And what I have thought of, I thought of this for a long period of time, what I've thought of is there are two groups of like, there's the deluge, right? The deluge was a real thing. Now, it doesn't mean the whole world flooded. That was the conceptualization of a very small land mass that did flood because it was very, very low. Like the Dead Sea is very, very low. That area flooded once, and then the ship washed up on a mountain, and then they lived in the side of a cave. But there, like, you can actually trace this. This is where I get this theory that I basically handcrafted myself, this hypothesis, that you look and you find out where the origins of all the languages really came from, and they all come from mountains. First and foremost, they come from mountains, mountain ranges. And it's very likely that the mountain ranges are where society, not society, but humanity itself, preserved itself during the deluge. And there was a pre-deluge society of people who lived on rivers, and this comes from the fact that the cyanobacteria in rivers are like the only place where ancient people could have gotten B12. Outside of the small amount of B12 that they get from like the juice from meat, there's a small amount there generated. Animals generate their own B12, but people need way more B12. And B12 is only absorbed through the membranes in the mouth. It's not absorbed very well in the gut. So you have to drink it. You have to either drink the juice, like, drink the juice of the meat, or cyanobacteria in rivers. And then you would get a lot of B12, and your entire system would be very, very balanced, and you'd be very, very intelligent. And that's what elves are. And I think the Swedish word for elf means by the river. And that's where we get it from in our English lexicon, is from that particular language, that wherever the Swedish language came from, that's where our Germanic English language gets the word elf. So this is my theory, that dwarves are people who went into the mountains, right? You can say maybe goblins too, in a way, maybe. It's kind of staying in the Socratic cave in a way, but like everybody lived in the mountains otherwise the lowlands would have flooded. Where did Doggerland go, for instance? Doggerland flooded and it went away. And these elves were mythological creatures, but they could have been prefigured based on the particular type of people that lived next to rivers, and these people kept living next to rivers in highlands. Like Switzerland is a very beautiful place. It's like a meeting culture of all the European cultures, because in many ways it was the place where the Celts kind of took cattle into Italy. Horses, cattle, other produce, stuff like that. They took that down into Italy, basically created the Proto-Lombardic before the Germans. I think that's called the Bergamat culture. I'm not exactly sure. And the Tuscan culture, the Etruscan culture, that particular culture was a commingling of the Celts and the native Italians that lived there. And that Tuscan culture spread into the central focal point of Rome, and that created the Roman kingdom, then the Roman Republic, and then the Roman Empire. The Romans did not have horses. There was no god for horse. Even though they had gods for everything, there was no god for a horse until the Celts brought in horses. They had a god called Epona. You might remember that name if you played Zelda. And then after being introduced into Celtic horses and then stealing their men and enslaving their women and like make a fight of the gladiators stuff, they created a chariot god. And I can't remember what the Roman chariot god is created, but it comes at a certain time. And you can delineate the particular time when the Celts brought horses to the Romans. So yeah, elves, they're river people. Dwarves, they're mountain people. They live inside of the mountains. And all the major world's languages, they come from mountains because the deluge wiped out so many people, right? So you had to live in some form of a highland. And that's like, gosh, teeny tiny itty bitty brained people think that the Noahide laws should apply to all the Goyans because if it wasn't for, you're just something or another, and they're all descended from, the people are descended from me, and you're like a demon, and yeah. It's so frustrating when you actually like make your way through all that crap. When you know, you can feel it in your heart, in your intuition, in your gut, that it's way more complex than that. And then you do your study and you find out, yes, it is more complex than that. Like, Jewish supremacy is the same as any other weird form of religious or racial supremacy in that it even misses the complexity in its own culture, like the fact that Jewish people would take slaves, and if they were willing to and intelligent enough to learn the Torah, they would become Jewish. It's only a certain tiny portion of their history where they're just like, okay, no miscegenation, nobody can take wives from outside of the culture. Well, that didn't work out very well because people got more inbred and more stupid, and then they were doing, like, insidious things with racial supremacist mindset that got their own civilization destroyed by Titus and Hadrian and the Romans. So that's that, I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings, but that's reality. Get with the program. Otherwise, we're all going to die. Okay, now, this is, okay, so this is the Night Lord that shouldn't have been a Night Lord. This is, it starts with a T. Talos? Yeah, this is Talos. This is Talos, and we love Talos. We love Talos, and we love Severus. Sevatar. We love Sevatar. We love Talos, and we love Sevatar. As Raven Guards fans, those are the Night Lords that can come to the barbecue. Okay, none of the other Night Lords can come to the barbecue. I'm sorry. Like, we do not want one of the kids missing and his skin ending up on the wind vein at the top of the house. Like, that's not going to do anything for anybody. You shouldn't be doing that. And if you're a Night Lords fan, you really should like take a good hard look. And this is a Blood Angel sword. That's very cool. You should. There's probably some lore to this that I'm missing. You should take a good hard look at yourself and be like, why do I like the terrorists so much? If I was in a position where the terrorists were terrorizing me and my people, would I feel the same way? And usually it's because they think it works. It's very effective. That psychological warfare, terrorism, is the most effective. Torture and terrorism and all that. But it's not. It's really not. You can never. That's exactly the problem with Nostromo. That's the exact problem with the culture of the Night Lords and why they're all criminals, and the reason why Nostromo had, like, Kurz nuked Nostromo, because it just turned into the same criminal cesspool that it was before he quote-unquote reformed it through terrorism. It doesn't work. You have to go in and, like, rebuild the foundation and make it a foundation of genuine justice. You can't have justice through brutality. You can't have justice through injustice. By going so above and beyond that you violate the principles that you're trying to instill into the population. It just doesn't work. It straight up doesn't work. But anyways, we love Talos. Gosh, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. Oh, man. Oh, that is so cool. His sword is a little bit bigger than it normally is depicted. It's usually only about this big. Still, he could have a bastard sword that he uses on the side too. That's fine, because that's a big old bastard. Oh my gosh. And this is his Imperium, and these are his armies, and he's the GOAT, and he's Giga Chad. And if people had recognized that, then there would have been more order and more peace and more unity and more decency. And Magnus did everything wrong, and fuck Magnus. Fuck Magnus, genuinely. Like, why do you have to ruin everything, bro? I know he was like the one out of all of them that had the least choice. Magnus was like Akashic Records level screwed. Like, he did not actually have free will. Kurz had more free will than he did, right? Kurz chose to die when he chose to die. Magnus, everything about Magnus was just like, well, this is happening now, and I have no control over it because I am the most warp of all of the Emperor's warp sons, right? And I didn't know what heck happened to Erda. Like, I don't even think the story of Erda gets really flushed out that much. Is Erda the wife of the mother of the Primarchs? I think so. Is this Avatar? I'm not sure. This might just be a regular Night Lord. But I thought this looked tough. Very, very cool. You see, it's not really, like, very easy to do this. It's very easy to do this. You see, few brush strokes, and then you get up and things are more complex. But I think this is digitally assisted, because you look up here and this looks shiny. It looks very shiny, and I love it when it looks shiny. I love it when it's digitally assisted. Ooh, he's got a pentagram. And the lightning. And the lightning is something that a lot of times the artists miss, is that they're literally supposed to be like a stormy night. Like, most of their weapons are supposed to crackle with lightning. They're supposed to have kind of like a greenish lightning around their bluish armor. In fact, this is a little bit too dark for my tastes, personally. If he's stepping out into the light, you should see more green, green trim and stuff like that. But a lot of the chaos, they just modify their armor willy-nilly, so there's a lore-accurate reason for that. But as I said, like, low brush strokes, this was probably cranked out in like 3 or 4, maybe 5 days. It's good. I like it. I don't know why this guy has like a piston engine on his back. But yeah, pretty cool. That goes on a classic. This was made by a Chinese artist that was pumping out some cool stuff recently. I love the way it looks. I really, really do. I absolutely adore the way this person, I'm not sure if they're a guy or a girl, has made their art style in the universe. It's just beautiful. It's so elegant and so flowing. And like every bit of it is beautiful, elegant, flowing. There's a complexity to it, but it's like soft-spoken complexity. Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful. First, let's look at Horus. I'm not sure if this is Horus, like, right as he's converting, or if this is, like, older Horus. This is, like, back when they were friends. They're friendly here. He's just coming in for a landing, right? Because he's got the white armor and everything. He went all black. Right before, the big battle. Arm is so tiny. His wings are so big. Very nice. I like that a lot. Sanguinius is Michael. Sanguinius is the most Michael of all the characters. Certainly Michael the Archangel. Protect us in battle, be our protection against the... Defend us in battle, be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the divine power of God, cast in the hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl throughout the world seeking the ruin of souls. Yes. Let's see. Primarchs. Flesh Terrors versus are these Gene Stealers? I think these are Gene Stealers, and these are all Tyranids. Tyranids, yeah. Gene Stealer Tyranids. I almost said Necromorphs, because I love Dead Space. Dead Space was like my introduction to cosmic horror. Before I didn't get into Lovecraft or anything like that. I think Lovecraft is more of a thing from the last like 15 years, really. I think it really is. I don't think people were talking about Lovecraft that much 20, 30 years ago at all. More like 15, maybe 20. I remember like when I was younger, I watched a cartoon called Little Cthulhu, and that was like my first introduction to the universe. But like people really like went crazy with it recently, especially like in the Darkest Dungeon era. And Darkest Dungeon is a great game, and Darkest Dungeon Cart, otherwise known as Darkest Dungeon 2, is also a great game. Those are great games. Number 1 has a lower ceiling than number 2. There's probably less time that you can spend on number 1 before you've just basically completed it and recognize that no, there's not a lot of flexibility in this universe. It is what it is, and you gotta avoid certain things and do certain things and like prepare a certain way every single time. Otherwise, the entire file will get screwed up. But yeah, very cool, very nice. So I've been streaming for 2 hours now. And I wish I had I need to create a button that says, be right back, and it plays a little nice music, like Brent Daniel did with his streams. Like a lot of people do with their streams, so I can go to the bathroom. Like I'm like jiggling and wiggling right now because I got to go to the bathroom so much. I'm going to do this as long as I can, and then I'm going to break this into multiple episodes. But yes. Oscar Armando. November 10th, 2022. Is this a Canonus? I think this might be a Canonus. I love this, man. It's so cool. Very, very cool. Keep it simple, silly. But I love the, what's this called? It's a form of cuirass that's like leather. And it's a medieval style armor. It's like a late medieval style armor. And it's very, very cool. Now I can't remember what that's called. But yeah, I really love, and everybody loves, that's one of the things that attracts people to it, is the aura of the medieval style mixed with the like far, far, far in the future sci-fi style. Everybody loves that. What's not to love? Except when they ruin it! Ruin it! Ruin it! No, it's not ruined. It's gonna bounce back from this, guys. And if it doesn't bounce back from where it's at, well, you know, we had a good run, right? We push off from that island, seeking a new island with a smile on our face, because what was, and it was beautiful. And I appreciate what was and what could still be. This is some form of a Terminator of sorts. Iron Hands. You can tell. They always got stuff on their back. But yeah, it's got that. Yeah, not much more to say. Great lighting. Beautiful dynamism. You can see the motion in the picture. Like motion back here, motion over here. He's obviously fighting some sort of a... This is probably a subsection of a bigger picture. Because that's definitely attached to something. But he's fighting something. He's fighting some baddie. Some big baddie evil demon. And what's this over here? Well, that's Magnus. The guy that did everything wrong, ladies and gentlemen. A beautiful portrait of Magnus. Yeah, let's sort this first. It's close to black and white, but I'd say it goes into classic because black and white has that specific charcoal or ink style. Now, Magnus, as a, like, you gotta love, like, the way that Tzeentch, and it's, okay, so, with Tzeentch, less is more. In the entire universe, less is more because you're not supposed to know the way that it manifests. It's supposed to be constantly shifting, constantly morphing. Nothing is supposed to be consistent. And so, in order to do it right, you can't flood the art and the concepts with many, many different types of Tzeentchian concepts and many, many different forms of Tzeentchian art. It has to kind of remain an aspect of mystique. And for the most part, it's been handled pretty well, pretty good. Like, Ahriman became the vessel in which the story was carried forth. And, oh man, that's cool. And yeah, what is this guy supposed to be? He has like one eye, right? So this is an ancient prefigurate. This is a really ancient mythology for... it's like Odin sacrificed one of his eyes for wisdom and stuff, but this is also something you see in like Egypt. Sacrificed an eye, and you know the eye symbol is very important. for like the knowledge of how to help his sons with the flesh change, which is just chaos ravaging their body because they're magicians and psychers, all of them. And they kept on mutating because the more psychic energy you have in your ranks, the more mutagenic properties that is. It's a very interesting way, because like the more, like white people, for instance, who have colorful hair and colorful eyes and are more mutagenic and they have more cancers. It is what it is. So it's a very intelligent way of depicting stability and chaos. And these guys were created with the most chaos of any of the legions. They were the most powerful up until the Council of Nicaea, which is a subtle hint about the standardization of the Bible during the Council of Nicaea in the Christian world. But regardless, yeah, pretty cool. Birdman. Not as bird as Korax, but still pretty bird. And these tusks are always, like, quite obtrusive in my tastes. Sometimes the tusks are huge. And I don't know why Magnus needs that. I don't know why Magnus needs to be big red guy either. It's very strange. But you know what? I like his aesthetic. I wouldn't change a thing. I would love to be a fly on the room when that was being designed. Is that Drukari? No, that's just regular Eldar with their ships. Yep, and they're fighting Tyranids, I think. That's either a Tyranid or some, because of the wings, some Nurgle beast. Yeah, it's probably Nurgle. They're probably fighting Nurgle here. But yeah, if I was an autist, I would be able to tell you what sort of plane this is. Like a Viper or something like that. But I am not an autist. I don't actually play the board game. I'm just in absolutely love with the lore of the universe, and especially the art and how it represents itself as like Sistine Chapel level art. Yeah, the quality on this one wasn't super good. These are Harlequins. This is a Harlequin and Harlequin. And Harlequins are fascinating, if not like jump the shark Mason. You know, hey, Mr. Mason, you jumped the shark in your black and white tile fortress, and now everybody thinks you're silly. Because that's what happened when, like, the theater got fully fused, because it stopped being about book clubs. When the Freemasons were at their peak is when they were ruling book clubs and influencing people's minds that way, and then it became about the theater, and the theater is more goofy and silly. Now, theater kids are like a lot of the world leaders that are screwing things up. But regardless, that's a whole rabbit hole we can go down on that I'd rather not go down. Everybody kind of intuits in their heart that theater kids can be really good or really bad. And when they're really bad, they tend to be goofy. And this is kind of like the Cirque du Soleil. Like, oh, they're the most powerful, more powerful than any of the other Eldar. And it's just like, kind of jumping the shark there, Bubba. Ah, well. The Knight of Falhu. Very cool, very cool. Eldar. And what is this? Andre Wallen. This looks to be a... Who is that? What is that? See, you kind of have a little bit of corn here, but like... What is this? Is that Death Watch? It's hard to tell. Because that's an Ultramarine. Yeah, this is probably Death Watch. Because that's an Ultramarine. So they have some of their original iconography, but they probably all have some particular painting on their pauldrons. And like this is almost like Dark Angels. This is like Death Watch, and this is like Khorne. So it's hard to tell, but I like the way that this was drawn. It had a lot of spirit in it. As you can tell, the detail, the fine attention to detail is quite good. Quite good indeed. I like it when people tatter the purity seals because they are effectively, they're not invincible and they're put through hell constantly. So I would imagine they would get pretty torn up. Yes, this goes into, thank you, Andre Wallen. That was a beautiful piece. This goes into Classic. Ah, yes, I found this. I was just like, yes, this is exactly what this universe needs more of. Got the Space Wolves, the Norse guys, and Cold Boys. I don't know what they're called. There's a whole bunch of different regiments of no, it's not Valkyrie. I'm sorry. It's in my memory, but it's sorted to the very back of the filing cabinet. I can't quite remember what these guys are called. No disrespect, but yeah, the universe needs more of this, where there's some like genuine beauty being exhibited amidst the chaos of war, because like that's what the universe is chock full of. Is like genuine beauty and awe and wonder, combined with the consequences of man's action and our fallen state, which like 40,000 plus years to fall. That's a long time for things to get as screwed up as they are in the modern setting. And that's more than 40,000 years, really. That's much, 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 much more than 40,000 years. Some interpret the Emperor of Mankind as Jesus himself. That doesn't make any sense at all. That doesn't make a lick of sense. I'm sorry, but there is a Old Testament Messiah, and then there is a New Testament Messiah. There is El, and then there's Elohim, which is multiple gods, and then there's El, which is one god, and that represents whether you were a true monotheist or a high pagan. And there's a such thing as a low monotheist, which is like a dualist, like the Zoroastrians, that all bowed to the infant Christ, because that was prefigured throughout like dozens and dozens of religions, seen by prophets for thousands and thousands of years before the turn of the Anno Domini. I'm not going to call it the Common Era because that's some bullshit. Like, fuck you if you use the Common Era. Fuck you. I literally lose all respect for you if you use Common Era. Fuck you. Anyways, and Jesus is, like, quite literally, it's not multiple gods doing battle. It's one God, and we humans are fallen creatures that have to try and to align ourselves by the depth of what purpose God has for us. And that's that. You know, there is no mixing it up in a low monotheist or a high pagan way. Because ultimately what that ends up, when we try to do that, it just ends up falling back into low paganism to try and reconstruct back up into high paganism. And what does that do? It causes mass amounts of war and bloodshed and strife, internal strife inside of a society, brother against brother. You know, that's what happens when low paganism takes forefront. It's not a good place to be. High paganism, druids, you know, seers, shamans, druids, bards, and the societies that are built around like listening to those people when they really, really pay attention. Like, think of the Mongols and think of the like Arthurian societies. High pagan societies are far more capable when it comes to exerting force when they want to, but they don't all the time because it's like spilling all the water that you have immediately on the first plant. No, you got to go around and you got to do the various plants. Anyways, I'm getting a little off topic. This is very beautiful. This is by Marat Tatsitidinov. I struggle with Russian. Tatsitidinov. Tatsitidinov. And it might be Ukrainian. Marat Tatsitidinov. I really, really struggle with those northeastern languages. Eastern languages in general, other than Japanese, which is the silliest, simplest. Like, we're not going to change for 1,000 years. We're not going to change our language at all for 1,000 years. Okay, well, translate that to any other language now, and it comes off as childish. No offense, but it comes off as childish because the other languages kept moving and yours stopped. And that's that. That's all there is to it. And what happened is you ended up, your technology ended up getting to the point where, because you stopped, your technology ended up getting to the point where you're being dominated. And America forced you open, which sucks. So you do not want to be forced open by Freemasons. This is Old Hammer. Good Old Hammer, like late Old Hammer. Really good late Old Hammer. Beautiful. I'm not sure if this is John's work. I haven't labeled this correctly. It might be John Blanche. I'm not sure. But this is obviously Orcs versus Imperial Fists. And it's very nice. And look, there's a squat. I think that's a squat. Yeah, this is probably John Blanche because he loved dwarves. He loved making dwarves. In fact, it might be named White Dwarf because of him. Rest in peace, man. You are truly the GOAT. of modern art, like postmodern. Let's call it postmodern because it's what it is. When the postmodern era hit and destroyed all art, your art shone like a blazing sun in the darkness of space. It was absolutely gorgeous, and God bless you, sir. I hope that you orientated yourself towards God, the true God of the universe, before you passed. Because it's that's what the warp really is the chaos of all the clamorings of feelings and the suffering of pleasure and, you know, the decay of the material world and the wrenching of anger and, you know, the Luciferian intellect. That is of the world, and that is chaos, and that is having your soul devoured. You know, that's not good. Whereas you orientate yourself towards God, or if you are like an edgelord in love with this universe, hey, call it Emps if you want. You know, call it Allah if you want. I don't care. As long as you try and orientate yourself towards the central focal point by which all good things have a responsibility to, all life shares a central focal point from, and by which we will be judged, and we can either embody the mercy by embodying mercy ourselves, or we can embody the justice by having justice done unto us and our iniquities. That is my theology. You can develop your own theology if you'd like, borrow a little bit from mine if you'd like. I'm perfectly fine with that. I exist to serve. Now check this out. Exterminatus! Very cool. In Maxim. Very cool, guys. Very cool. Who's that? Is that Gilliman? That doesn't look like a good statue of Gilliman. That's a bad statue of Gilliman. Yeah, that's a bad statue of Gilliman. No offense against the artist. You did a great job, but that's a bad statue of Gilliman. Why is he bald? He shouldn't be bald. Why is his head like weirdly square? It shouldn't be weirdly square. He's supposed to look like a nerd. That's what he is. He's supposed to look like a boyish Boy Scout nerd. That's what Gilliman is supposed to be. Is Greco-Roman Boy Scout. Or Ultra Greek Boy Scout. Anyways, this looks great. I wish I had a name for this and an artist for this, but I do not, and I don't see any signature, which I always assume, hey guys, hey artists, if you want to be known, put your damn signature on there. If you don't put your signature on there, I either assume you got paid for your work, which is, you know, it's fine to both get paid and recognized, or you just don't care, which is like, then I respect the hell out of you because you just want your art to be seen. You're doing it for the sake of art. You're not doing it for the sake of recognition, which is, to the sake of recognition is anti-intuitive. It is exigent. It is not the soul of the suffering artist, which is meant to be appreciated more after their death than in life. And a true artist actually probably, in most cases, has a good conceptualization of the one true God because they understand it doesn't come from them, but from forces that flow through them, and hopefully they're good forces, you know, forces of order and forces of justice, forces of duty, you know, instead of forces of chaos and possessions that can flow into you and be named as various Hindu gods or angels and fallen angels or demons or what have you. You know, there's a whole can of worms you can open up when you get into the history of all that. Now this goes into classic. Captain Artemis. This guy is kind of a fuck up, if I remember correctly. But you know what? He's our fuck up, so we love him anyways. I think he's one of the bigger fuck ups in the universe. Ooh. Ouch. But hey, man, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you fuck up or not. What's important is that you tried. Because if you tried, you can at least be an inspiration for people to have some sort of a redemption. This is one I snabbed off of my friend Forsaken Wanderer on Twitter. And you see, this is Drukhari, I believe. Is that Drukhari? What is that? If that... Yes, this is Drukhari versus Sisters of Battle. And Drukhari are like... They're like the... a wet dream of a Jewish pornographer who also loves torture. So basically the wet dream of a Zionist pornographer who is obsessed with torture and rape and pain and sex and mixing all those things up when their circuits get all crossed. That's what the Drukhari are. And you basically have like dark woman versus light woman. This is an interesting way of interpreting that. And there is very likely Celestine, the living saint. Doves. Doves with purity seals. Spaceships. Various cool stuff. Very beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous art. That's probably, depicted as kind of the warp, I would assume. But yeah. Yep. Those are Drukhari. Those are Drukhari. I was thinking maybe this is Slaanesh. No. This is Drukhari. And Drukhari are partially owned by Slaanesh. There's certainly all their souls are going to be devoured by Slaanesh. 100%. After being tortured to death by their own people half the time. Yeah, as I said, a Zionist pornographer's wet dream. Do not allow your world to fall to that. Please. Does that go in Battlefields? Yeah, that goes in Battlefields. The Harlequins, giving Chaos a good show. A Performance per Chaos by Leonid Koziensko. I see, I got it right that time. It's a pretty good picture. It's a little dark, you know. Like even it's supposed to be super colorful, right? Even the super colorful Harlequins are a little dark. It's a little on the dark side for my tastes. I truly do, in both video games, movies, artwork. I really do appreciate a good color palette and a vibrant color palette. And in fact, that's one of the reasons to really like the Night Lords when they're done right, is because they have this really cool kind of RuneScape-esque, blue and green that when combined looks really, really cool. Kind of a Gothics sort of a color palette. That's in Battlefield. Ah, yes. Yes. I think we're going to end on this one, guys. Guys and gals. This is one of the Battle of the Angels interpretations by Colin Searley. And this is very, very cool. The way that this is... Like, I love the expression on this. Like, see, look at all the beautiful colors and how vibrant it is. You still have a lot of dark. You still have good shading. You still have a good layout of the various brightnesses and darknesses depicted by the inside of something compared to the outside of something. But, like, you have the glowing and you have the beauty, and, like, I love this teal color. And I love the expression on this guy's face, like, it's great. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And look at Sanguinius back there. He's not very well defined, but still, like, he's about ready to fuck this guy up. Let's take a look at a little bit of detail down here. Yeah. Oh yeah. Poor Imperial Fists, man. They try their best, though, At the end of the day, they're doing what they love. Why do we have bolters? Fuck loyalist. Yup. This is where I'm going to end it for today. This has been a fun stream. I can't wait to do number 2. This is going to... Should this go into Primarchs or Battlefields? You know what? I'm going to put this in Primarchs. And when we come back, we'll be on another Battle of the Angels. But yeah, that was fun. Thanks for coming along, guys. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed. I hope this all came out good. And I hope you have a wonderful evening and a wonderful next day.